Mortality is one of those topics people avoid at all costs. Yet having a goal for how long you want to live gives you perspective on what you are still capable of achieving in your lifetime. In this episode, I discuss how changing your perspective on how long you have to live can be both liberating and rewarding. I also share research that may raise your eyebrows when it comes to success rates of those in their 50s and 60s versus those in their 20s and 30s. It's an unusual topic, so let's dive in. If there was a guarantee that you could create your dream life, a life that truly mattered to you, would you want it? My name is Terriane Palmer-Peacock, and I'm delighted to welcome you to the One Person Podcast. I have a belief that one person can make a difference in the world. That person is you. It's me. When we show up as the best version of ourselves, when we create and live our dream lives, we make a positive impact on ourselves and those around us. So if simple, actionable, step-by-step strategies, tools and tips on how to do that inspires you, then you are in the right place, my friend. So let's get started. What's your number? Now, some people are really uncomfortable when I ask them this question because they don't want to think about their own mortality. But for me, when you reach 50, it's a really important question. And it's a discussion I think everyone should have, particularly in relationships. I know when I asked Doug that question, and Doug is my husband, by the way, his first answer was late 70s, early 80s. Now, Doug is 9 years older than me, which means I'll only be late 60s when he chooses to check out. Now, my number is 100, so that would mean I've got over 30 years of my life on my own. Now, needless to say, I told him to bugger off and he better raise his game and his number because 30 years is way too long to leave me on my own. Now, I've since got his number up to 88 and I'm working on increasing that into the 90s. Now, the reason why I say it's an important question to know the answer to, particularly if you are over 50, is because of perspective. You see, Doug, from a generation perspective, is a late baby boomer. In fact, I think baby boomers end in 1964 and he was born in 1963. So his parents were children from the war era and the Great Depression. Now, when he was born, the average life expectancy was only 63 years old. You retired from your industrial job in your mid-50s, you got a gold watch from 40 plus years of service, and then you died 10 years later. Now, we know with better diets, better nutrition and healthier lifestyles, people today are living longer. And baby boomers are expected to live to an average age of 79 years old. Now, by the way, when I was looking up the actual statistics on this, the research suggested they were living longer, but they were not necessarily healthier because of the increase of medications. And I quote, "Before, where someone might have died at age 50 from a first heart attack, now the heart attack is delayed until the age of 60. But during that 10-year, we'll call it the heart attack delay, gap, that individual is not enjoying better health. They're still not addressing the basics, which have never changed, of diet and exercise." Now, this episode is not actually about health and baby boomers, but just for curiosity, the average age expectancy for Gen X, which is my generation, is 85 years old, and Gen Z and Alpha are likely to exceed the 100-year mark. Well, I figure if I can still race against 20 to 30-year-olds at a national competition and beat them on a canoe over 10 kilometres, I reckon my number of 100 years is pretty spot on. So, why is it important to know your number? Well, turning 50 for some people is a travesty, but for me, it was a celebration. I viewed it as something incredibly exciting because it was recognition that I'm only halfway there. Now, as the goal achievement girl, I'm only halfway to my goal. But for this goal, I'm not in any hurry to get to the end. Instead, I'm all about the journey. You see, I view my next 50 years as being something like a series of water slides at a theme park as I make my way joyously all the way to the bottom. You know, I get to do life with an incredible amount of wisdom and experience under my belt. You know, and for me, that's amazing. So when I set my goals now, I'm looking at the type of life I want to live for the next 50 years. And that's what gives me perspective. And I hope it does you too. You see, if I have 50 years to go, for me to really enjoy it, I need to be mobile. I need to be fit and strong and healthy. So that affects the choices that I make today. What about you? What choices do you need to rethink in regards to your body? You know, this body that I have, it's the only vehicle I have. And for it to last the distance, I know I've got to take care of it. So that means my daily habits for looking after this temple includes good food, natural supplements, drinking lots of water, and exercise. You know, at 50, I know I can't thrash my body like I did 20 years ago, and recovery takes a lot longer than it did even 10 years ago. So I'm factoring that into my goals and habits. I can't lift super heavy weights anymore, especially not in conjunction with my paddling training, because there's just not enough recovery time between sessions. But I can do Pilates. In fact, I can do reformer Pilates. I blooming love that at the moment. So what I'm saying is I'm adjusting and amending my daily habits as I listen to my body with the ultimate goal that it has to last 100 years. It's perspective. So what amendments do you need to possibly consider? I also need to be generating enough income to sustain me in the lifestyle that I want to live for another 48 years. Now that means I need income producing assets. It means I need a business that generates a good income now and for at least the next 10 to 20 years. What type of lifestyle do you want to live over the next 30, 40, 50 years? Do you have the income to sustain that? And if you don't, what are you doing about it? I've already negated any excuses for age. It also means I need to have things in my life that interest me and inspire me. I need people in my life who have similar viewpoints to me, who are excited about living life now, not counting down the days until they die. I don't want to hang out with people like that. You know that famous quote from Morgan Freeman in the movie Shawshank Redemption, you get busy living or you get busy dying. It's so true. Perspective. It also means we have a heck of a lot of time left that we can still make a positive impact in the world. So no matter what your age, my friend, I hope you realize this is true, because age should never be a barrier to setting really big goals. Did you know Louise Hay launched Hay House Publishing when she was 62 years young from her own home? Now that company became well known as one of the largest publishing companies for personal development, with world-renowned writers like Doreen Virtue, Dr. Wayne Dyer, Marianne Williamson, Deepak Chopra, as well as Esther Hicks. Do you know in 2014, Hay House generated over $100 million, with $8 million going back into the charitable Hay Foundation for those in need of help. Now, Harlan Sanders was also 62 years old when he franchised what we know today as KFC. Now, it's now in 118 countries and has a value of $12.6 billion. Now, fun fact, did you know a founder who is 50 years old is 2.8 times more likely to have a successful business than a person who is 25 years old? Ray Kroc started McDonald's when he was 52. Arianna Huffington launched the Huffington Post when she was 55 years old. Now, another fun fact, research shows that entrepreneurs in their 50s succeed at approximately the same rate as those in their 20s. So it doesn't matter if you are in your 20s, your 30s, your 50s, or your 60s. Age is not the barrier. Your thinking is. Now, I'm an ambassador for the UK skincare and makeup company Trini London, and the founder, Trini Woodall, launched her company just before COVID, and it was under lockdown that she actually catapulted into the multi-million realm that is now global. In fact, we just opened a brand new store here in Brisbane this past week. Now, her energy and work ethic at 60 years old is next level. I mean, seriously next level. And her continued presence on social media, it's like phenomenal. In fact, she's one of the few people that I tap into for inspiration and energy when I've got any disempowering thoughts trying to fill my head like, I'm too old for this. No, I'm not. I don't have enough energy for this. Yes, you do. The universal law of displacement says you can have disempowering thoughts or you can have empowering thoughts, but you can't have both at the same time, because the law of displacement says no two things can occupy the same space at the same time. So to all my friends listening, No matter what your age, it's not too late. So here's my top 3 tips on how you can live life to its fullest, no matter what your age. Number 1, decide what your number is so you can recalibrate where you are now and what you want to achieve in this lifetime. Number 2, sit down and write a list of all the things you want in your life. Not the things you think you can have or achieve, but the things that you truly desire. Now, the Latin meaning of desire is of the Father. So when you desire something, you are essentially connecting with God or whatever your version of the higher power or source is. So if you feel any guilt or shame around any desire you have, you are literally telling yourself to feel guilt and shame around connecting with God or the highest source, which to me doesn't make any sense at all. Right? So make sure when you're doing this list of things that you want in your life that it comes from a place of possibility rather than limitation. And if you want help with how to do that, go check out episode number 4. And my 3rd tip is get busy living. If you aren't happy with any area of your life, it's not too late to change and take a different pathway. If you need courage to do that or someone to believe in you, well, you already have that in me. You know, I believe everyone is capable of anything that they set their mind to. And if you need new skill sets to achieve what you want to achieve, go get them. Go back to study. Go do some research. You know, there is no standing still in the game of life. You are either evolving or you're dissolving. If you need new strategies, find someone who's done what you want to do and go chat to them. You know, getting busy living means being brave. It means taking courageous action. It's doing things that may scare you, but remember the joy of being a child. Tap into that childlike wonder, and instead of letting your fears dictate your actions, let your experience guide you. So, my final words on this episode is, it's never too late to start something new. And the best time to start is always now. All right, my friend, I hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you love this podcast or have been enjoying listening to it, please go to Apple Podcasts and leave me a review. Not only would I love to hear from you, but I read all the reviews and they really help to share the podcast with other listeners. Finally, remember you can also get the show notes and more tools and tricks from my website, terrianepalmer.biz. I'll see you next time for some more creative goodness. Bye for now.